story begins about 150 million zillion years ago, far, far away, in some dark recess of the universe, on a tiny little planet. Some alien people had built a brand new, state-of-the-art, fast as you like, go anywhere spaceship. And the aliens climbed onto that spaceship and they set off into the unknown universe to explore and map and discover.
It's very, very necessary, which sounds a bit sort of calculated, but it is. But it's such a fun thing for them all to do it.
So I first came to Jura about 20 years ago, and I worked in the walled garden at Jura House with Nikki, and we became really good friends and kept in touch. And then 10 years later, I took my children back to Jura with my partner Gary, and when Nikki found out that Gary was a storyteller and drama worker, she asked if we would come back to the music festival and do some stuff with the kids, and that's how it all started really.
What they originally done as well, I mean, they done face painting with the kids, which was an added thing, and they themselves, they done stilt walking and lots of other things, you know.
But when we first came to the island, they just asked us to entertain the children, so we did some parachute games and singing and percussion workshops and all kinds of things like that. And then after a year or two we thought, well, maybe we could do a bit more here, so we invited Pete, who's a friend of ours, a visual artist and very good at working with children, and we put some ideas together and we came up with the Whirlpool workshops, and that's where it all began really.
I was brought in after the workshops had already started. A big surprise to me, I didn't know what to expect when I first went, but it's just been a wonderful experience and challenging and fun at the same time.
Part of the process of finding the story is visiting the children at the Small Isles School, and we play storytelling games with them, and then I'll ask them what's been happening since we were last here, and then ideas for what this year's stories start to come out of that, and it's kind of, that's where it begins really.
The children just love them, they really do. Just the things they get them to do, the things they get them to create, well, they encourage them, you know, and it comes out of them, so that's...
Well, you got us in a big kind of circle kind of thing, and then you just gave us ideas and then we gave you ideas back.
Right.
Oh no, relax now. Does he go straight from the eyes and he jumps ship and then he knows that they're going to say, build, okay, brilliant.
So what is your role?
I guess it's to transfer the stories and tales that I created into something visual, whether it's masks or puppets or shadow puppets, which has been the main involvement, and a bit of scenery, and just to transfer the ideas in a very simple, easily manipulated form.
And where do the ideas come from?
They come from the children, from the stories. They'll create characters from the stories, they'll give them a personality, I'll ask them what they look like, and they'll transfer that from their drawings into a silhouette form, which is what we can use for shadow puppets. Across the weekend, through the workshops, we get lots of different children coming and going. Some of them from the island, and some of them are just visiting, and some will be in the performance and others won't. But they all bring their ideas and make stuff. Some of those ideas are quite wacky, and I begin to think, how are we going to make this happen? But there comes a point when I see enough strong possibilities that an idea for what the story's going to be comes together, and managed to pull it all together in the end.
And there was a lovely atmosphere. I remember the atmosphere in the hall when we were getting all the props together, and people would come and help with cutting out or with costumes, and it was just a lovely community event. The story coming together with the children's own creative input and the whole community's creative input to some extent as well, which is a lovely feature of it.
You know, Nikki just absolutely loved it. She helped with her artistic, you know, sort of skills. She just loved being involved in it.
She always had a lovely meal ready for us when we arrived on the island from the evening ferry.
She just, I mean, she loved children anyway, and she was so tolerant.
She used to come and sit and help with the costumes or cutting out the puppets or just generally sit and enjoy the chaos.
It was chaotic. And it was that rush to the last minute, you know, we're meant to be on in 5 minutes.
And on the Sunday, time has a way of kind of accelerating through the day, so we're all obviously doing this performance at the end of the day, and we're all rushing headlong towards it.
The shadow puppets tend to be just on the hoof, and they're made, they're tried out, and there's no getting behind the screen and doing a performance.
In the hour leading up to the actual performance, then we have, well, I wouldn't describe it as a rehearsal, we have like a stumble through, and then if we get a chance we'll have a walk through, and then, well, we're on basically, so that's what we do.
No one was allowed to see what you were wearing and what you were.
We were sworn to secrecy, the adult helpers in the hall. We weren't allowed to let out what story it was or what was going to happen at all.
Yeah. And then you had to secretly kind of make your way up to the marquee and that.
Yeah. And everyone would hide behind the screen until it started.
And how did you feel going from, say, the village hall to wherever the performance was?
Butterflies in the tummy.
Everybody wants to be there, congregated, and mainly it was in the cooperage.
One of the charms of the whole performance is that it's not sterile and produced, it's just at the moment, and it's seen then and never seen again.
What did it feel like when you were performing and you had to step out in front of the audience? What did that feel like for you?
Yeah, I'm getting a chance to perform!
I mean, the stories they make are just amazing because it's all based on Jura, and the kids come up with, as you know, ideas, characters, and there's names that lend themselves to local legends, local characters, and they're just hilarious, you know.
When Giles asked us to make a compilation of the stories, we found that was actually quite difficult because it's been a long time and we hadn't documented it really.
There's the Whirlpool one, Spearfinger,
Giants,
Sorley's Glass Eye, and the Aliens.
I remember the most recent one with Gavin when he was the princess and the dragons, and I can't remember who was the dragon, but then he got killed because he was looking at himself in the mirror, but the dragon came up and killed him.
I was the deer in the Spearfinger one.
It wasn't like a story that you know exactly what's going to happen. Anything, these stories, anything could happen. You knew the basic story, you knew the traditional story from the place, but what were they going to do with it? What kind of different angles was it going to take because of the children's own ideas? That was a lovely side to it.
And I got told to whisper in the hero's ear, "Aim for her finger!" through the big heavy deer mask. That was fun.
So then we started to ask the people on the island what they remembered of the stories, and found that they could remember this story and they could remember that story, but they get the characters all mixed up and it all become a bit of a mishmash. And it's quite funny really because it seems to have had a bit of a strange effect on the island's collective memory.
Gavin knew the story about Sorley because his dogs called it Sorley.
Sorley had a glass eye.
Was that something to do with you? Did you tell us that you found a glass eye on the beach or something?
Aye.
Yeah? And did your dad tell you a story about it?
Aye, Dad said it was Sorley's glass eye.
And we made up absolutely downright ridiculous names. Like, Dylan was Guy from Skye who likes to eat pie.
Basically, he kind of lived in a forest. I think it was Standing Forest. And soon he became too big to live there. So he had to move out. Moved down to Ardfin, where he had his pillow.
And there was Marie from Tyree. I was Barbara from Scarba.
He had some rivalry with an Isla giant, Ishmael, and he was going over to the mainland to get his eye refitted or polished.
I was the evil giant that killed Sorley in that massive war they had in the sea or something. That's how he lost his eye or something.
Ishmael appeared from Isla and flung a big boulder on his face, and his glass eye dropped off into the sea. Then he started having a big battle and sorely lost because he was trying to find his glass eye at the same time trying to fight Ishmael, and that's basically it.
There comes a time where the kids get to a point, they reach that sort of teenager self-consciousness phase where they don't want to get involved in the performances because it's slightly uncool, it's seen as kids stuff.
But I was kind of old. I felt a little bit too, like I was getting a bit too big for it.
Is there an age limit, do you think?
I think kind of under maybe 13.
Yeah.
Everyone my age has kind of left it, so it's just really me being the oldest. And then below me is about 6 or 7.
See, one of the things that I noticed, I kept saying to Miriam, are you going to come and be a part of this?
Yeah, I remember being at the burger van.
I see you kept going off into the distance and disappearing. But when you showed,
when you face it, actually.
Yeah,
don't speak to me, please.
But when the show started, you were right there in the front row watching it, if I remember rightly. You suddenly appeared.
And I remember one year, Gavin and Dominic walked past the village hall and Gary asked them if they wanted to be involved this year, and Dominic put his hand to his face and walked on, and Gavin was slightly torn, and it's really lovely to see that sort of slight self-consciousness kick in.
Do you still feel like being involved?
Aye, definitely.
Yeah? In what capacity do you think?
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes?
You were last year, weren't you?
Aye.
Yeah.
So on the technical side.
I'm still quite a bit of a drama queen and I absolutely love the performing.
I say it's gave Rachel a real taste for life on the stage, which she's kept, and she's enjoying drama activities from that. That was her first introduction to that world, really.
How did it feel watching the other people do theirs? What did you think?
I thought it was good because it was like their time to do it, if you know what I mean. And like it would bring back the memories of when you do it as well, which was good.
And they grow up and move on, and that's fine, obviously. They'll always have that memory. Do you still perform?
I go to a drama class.
Okay, so you do that after school?
Yeah.
Do you still do performance elsewhere?
No.
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 Do you think you ever will?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. Alright. That remains to be seen, doesn't it?
At which point, Romulus took out his sword and stabbed his brother.
Started off with Gary and Pete, they are the future of the island, and they'll be able to tell all these stories to their children and their grandchildren.
It's really good because it shows the kids that you can create a piece of theatre from nothing. You don't need expensive props or a proper theatre or a script. It all comes from them over the course of one weekend.
If at the end of it all, the children, when they grow up, look back and have fond memories of the time that they spent doing the workshops with us, then that's great.
It's just a fantastic opportunity to have work on an incredible, beautiful island with really lovely people, and be creative without any pressure. Spot the lie.
I'd love the adults to get involved.
Yes, it's true.
You look at it and you think, gosh, I'd love to do that. You know,
Well, that's
really
why I got involved and really enjoyed it.
I remember the crowd gathering in the cooperage, and it was like jostling for space to see what was going on. That was the only thing that sometimes you couldn't quite see enough of it as much as you'd like to do, but it was always a lovely end finale to the festival weekend. The children's performance was definitely one of the highlights.